I said that we're so lucky to have Sigal with us. Sigal is originally from Israel. Sigal Sandaka is from Haifa, the big city in the north of Israel. She will tell us all about herself, but she's now, you can see the map behind her where she's sitting, but she is now in the States. So she is in Washington, D.C. right now. She's doing an amazing, amazing job at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And Sigal is an Israeli shlicha in the university. She will tell a little bit about her job and what she's doing at the state. But we're here to listen to you, listen to your story, listen who you are. If you have any questions, Sigal will give some time at the end. And because we're a nice small group, you can type question during the session if it's okay with you, Sigal, or maybe they can interrupt you. So thank you very much for dedicating your time for us. This is such an amazing opportunity for us to see more faces of Israel. And for those of you who never met me before, I'm Rotem. I'm your Israeli Shaliach. So I'm working with the Jewish Federation. I'm originally from Israel, and I'm sitting now in Israel, in Be'er Sheva. The screen behind me showing you the beautiful beach of Eilat, but I'm in Be'er Sheva right now. This is 9 p.m. at night. Sigal, I'm giving it to you. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we're all yours.
Hi, so as Rotem said, I'm Sigal, I'm the Israel Fellow at GW Hillel. I am from Haifa, Israel, but we'll talk about my story later. I want to start with to present to you my community and the story of Beta Israel community, the Ethiopian Jews in Israel. I'll share my screen. Okay. So we'll start from this, and then I'm gonna give you a timeline of my life and my family life. I'll start from Ethiopia. So Jews in Ethiopia most of them live in Mahoz that named Gonder. It's in Ethiopia. And the majority of the Jews who got to Israel was in 1984 with Operation Moses. It's a operation that combined the Israel government, Ethiopian Jews who were very active, and the American Jews who helped a lot and literally made this operation to happen. The prime minister in Israel was Begin. So my father came in this operation, 1984, in Operation Moses. He is a prisoner of Zion. And in this time in Ethiopia, the prime minister didn't allow Ethiopian Jews to go to Israel. He didn't allow them to get out of the country. So what they did a secret operation to bring all the Jews from Ethiopia and Gonder region to Sudan, to camps in Sudan, and then the Israeli Air Force and government waited there and they flew them to Israel. In this operation, the majority of the Ethiopian Jews came, and the majority from it died in the way. We'll talk about it later. So that's my family, not all of it, but you can see my parents. You can see me and my dad in the day I came here to the Shlichut, and you can see me with my nephew. So my dad, as I said, is a prisoner of Zion, which means that he helped the Zionist dream to came true. And when he got to Israel, they recognized him as a prisoner of Zion. His job in all this operation was to take a lot of Ethiopian families from their villages and bring them to a gathering point, and then lead them from Gondar to Sudan, which is a long walk, and they needed to go only at night because it was secret, and the police chased them, and there was a lot of rebels on the way. So it was very hard journey, but they managed it. My father gets caught by the Sudan police, and he's sent to the jail for 9 months for his activity. 9 months of like a lot of, like, I remember as a kid, I saw my father have a lot of scars in all of his body. And I remember as a child, I didn't understand what it means and why do we have it. And he always said, I did, like, it was part of my job in this operation. And he never talked about it until this day. He, like, once in a while, I'm I'm bringing like the pieces together, because every time he's telling me other part of the story and like about his friends. But he was a huge hero, and he helped so many people to get to Israel, and he's like very known for it in our community. He is the most amazing person I've met. My mom waited for him for 9 months in the camp. And then they got together after they released him from the jail, and they made their way to Israel too. So yeah, that's my family. Both of them, my mom is a cleaner and my dad is a community mediator. It means that he helped a lot of Olim to like get involved, or like make their involvement in the Israel society easier. And my mom is a cleaner in like I don't know how to say it, but like old people houses, like I don't know how to say it, but if someone knows, we can say. My English is not that good, as you can, like, it's nice, but you can help me whenever you want. So yeah, so he was a shaliach. I like always, I like to think that he was a shaliach, and that was his shlichut. But we'll get to it in the end. The Beta Israel community is 2% of the population in Israel, which is very small. It's an amazing community. It's like very united community. We do a lot of, like, it's the joke in Israel is like everyone knows everyone, because we are very united. If it's like weddings or funeral, we are always there for each other. Really, there's so many lessons to learn from this community, and I'm still learning it. But yeah, my Israeli story. So I was born in Haifa in 1994. Today I'm 27. I worked as an educator for the last 10 years since I went out the army, like since I released the army. You can see in this picture from the left, it's me on birthright with my American, nice, handsome friends. We were very close until these days. The second picture is me in the army. I was a soldier teacher. It means that I helped a lot of, I was in a boarding school, so I've been with teenagers with addictions and like learning problems, and I've been with them for 2 years, which was the most amazing experience of my life. The third one is I was a coordinator in a pre-army program, so this is the last day of the pre-army program. And the fourth one is a delegation. I've been a part of a delegation to volunteer in India. We built a school and helped to like give like life for these kids. It was Israeli delegation, and it was amazing. My story is that I was born for like very Zionist parents. One is a hero, and my mom is a cleaner. And I studied in the Hebrew Reality School, which is very private. It's a private school, very good in Haifa. They wanted to like bring Ethiopian to the school. They wanted to make them more involved in the community and in the like elite community more, and like make to like gain the Ethiopian community through education. So I was the first. I was the first. Like that was the first time I was the first one with 2 other friends of mine. So I studied there. It was very good white school. I've been the only Ethiopian. We've been 3 only Ethiopians in school, and until I was like 14, 16, I didn't even understand that I have a different color. Like the color didn't meant at this time. I didn't saw it. I was like I just felt like part of everyone. No one talked with me about my color. No one talked with me about like my parents as like olim chadashim, new immigrants in Israel. And then when I was 16, something changed, and my mom had something happened in her work. And for me, it was like the day that changed my life, because then I understand, like, it's made me understand like color matter. And I was very, very denying my culture. I didn't want people to see my parents when I was younger at my school. When they needed to come to my school, I was like, I don't want you to come. If my dad came with this car, I was like, don't park it close to the school. I don't want people to see the car. I didn't was ashamed in the color. I was ashamed in that they are like new immigrants, like the clothes and everything. And I remember it, like, it was, for me, it was very tough because I had a huge identity ברכה לי המילה משבר.
Crisis.
Yeah, thank you. I had a huge identity crisis. And for me, it was like everything affects our life, every experience we do. And the fact that I grew up in this school, but came from very, very different neighborhood and like culture was a lot. And then I remember like asking my mom. A lot of things happened with the Ethiopian community in Israel, which we'll talk later. But I asked my mom, like, is it worth it? Like, why are we here? Like, maybe it was better if we would stay in Israel, not come to. Maybe it would be better if we would stay in Ethiopia. And I would never been in Ethiopia, never. And she say, until these days, I get a chance to give birth to 4 kids. I have 3 more siblings. 4 kids in Israel, in the land of Zion, in like the land of honey and milk. And for me, it's everything. I have a daughter who's an educator. I have a daughter who who has a BA. You're not gonna be like me. I'm like a villager. I'm not like, I'm a cleaner. And that's the day that for me, my parents and my culture turned to be from something I'm ashamed to, like, my biggest heroes, my biggest like legends live in my home. Like, they live with me. They're like my parents. And my mom is a cleaner. My dad is a mediator. It's not something like you will look and see and say, wow. But in the same time, the simple as that, the greater it is, they're like my hero. The lesson I taught by them, my mom always said, like, I'm not academic person. But for me, she's way more smart than like a lot of academic person I know. So for me, it was a huge thing. And then after I finished my school, I went to a pre-army program and then to the army. In the army, I worked with Ethiopian teenagers. For me, it was a life-changing experience because it was my first time being with a majority of Ethiopian at the same time. And it was an amazing experience. They're like the love of my life until this day. And it changed my life because since then I work as an educator. Life in Israel, okay, making Aliyah and being in Israel as an immigrant has, of course, pros and cons. One side is like, yeah, the Zionist side, which is amazing. And like, I love it. And it's the dream of my parents. But the other side can be difficult sometimes because, as you know, racism is like worldwide thing. It's like crosses countries and times. And we are, and then I'm black, like I'm getting in the room. It's not matter what I'm saying. people see or think they know who I am or what I am. So a lot of times I hated it, but today I'm like embracing the fact that I'm like a woman with color, and I know I'm very connected to my like culture and my community, which is amazing. But you can see here, like we are very, a lot of the Ethiopian, everyone join, like go to the army because it's mandatory, but a lot of them go to like be in combats and like be like have a very like meaningful service in the army. The woman here is she's in the government, which for us was an amazing accomplishment we had, because we didn't see a lot of Ethiopians get to like high points, and suddenly we have a lot of like more and more people from our community succeed to like go higher and bigger in Israel. And the picture from the left is from mechaot, protest. I'm sorry, protest in Israel. We had a lot of protests we've been through, and we are still like managing our life in Israel, which from one side, it's amazing. That's my land. I love Israel. I'm very Zionist. Like, I want my family to be there. But from the other side, it's hard. It can be hard sometimes, like every place. But that's who we are. Like, it's immigrant country. A lot of people come from everywhere, which is interesting because I feel like now in the United States, a lot of people think like Jewish people look like in certain way, and in Israel it's like the opposite. Most of the Jews don't look in this way, and then we are more diverse, and like the Israel society is very diverse. You can see Jews from Ethiopia and Jews from Morocco and Jews from Yemen, Jews from Europa, and Jews from a lot of Arab countries. So we're like a combination of a lot of things, which made this country being so amazing and this society being so amazing, but in the same time very complicated. But you can't have something that good without having complicated experiences. So for me, I know sometimes I'm very mad at the government, but for me, in the same time, that's my land, that's who I am, that's part of like what my parents wanted. So I love it. Two of the biggest and the most meaningful days for the Ethiopian community, the Beta Israel community, is Chag HaSigd and Memorial Day for the Jews who passed away in the way from Ethiopia to Sudan. Chag HaSigd, it's 50 days after Yom Kippur. And we believe that after we do a self-reflection in Yom Kippur, we need to have a community reflection. We need to think as a community how we can get better and be better. It's a day that they celebrated in Ethiopia too, and the whole thing was like going to the highest mountain, climb it with rocks. For like the rocks, it was like a symbol of like the bad things we do, or like our thing that we need to like be better in. And then they got to the highest point. They would throw the rocks and go down like clean and like new as a community, which for me is a huge lesson in these days, even more than ever, because like you see what's going on around the world, and like in America and in Israel, and we have a lot of things that we need to think about together, and the Jewish world too. For example, I discovered here how not much we know about Jewish life in America, like how much Israel society don't know how, like what it means to be a Jewish person in America. And that's a gap we have to deal with. And for me, it's part of my shlichut to go back and do this when I when I will go back to Israel. So that's the thing, like unite us together as one, but like respect each other's life, Jewish life in Israel and Jewish life in America, which is sometimes very, very similar, but sometimes it's very, very different. So that's one day, and the other day is the Memorial Day for Jews, Ethiopian Jews who died in the way to Israel, which 4,000 Ethiopian Jews died in this journey to Israel, which is a huge number. And for us, it's a very hard day because it's our personal Memorial Day. Interesting fact is that it's in the same day of Jerusalem Day in Israel. In the day we celebrate the Jerusalem Day in Israel, the Ethiopian community mentioned her Memorial Day. This community is like, people don't think, like, a lot of people say it's a very naive community, but I think that's what good in it. Like they thought Jerusalem is really from gold. They knew that there's white Jews. They thought all the Jews are black. It was a surprising thing to see. They thought that, like, you can see when they get down from the airplanes, they're like kiss the floor. They're like thought everything is like, they still think, a lot of people think that it's Ethiopian Jews, that everything is holy, like the floor is holy even. They're like, were very, very naive. They didn't even knew anything when they come. Like my parents personally, they come from a village. They didn't have a lot of things that for us is very like normal, like bathrooms and like a lot of things, like a refrigerator. My mom always telling me that like she didn't even know what's a refrigerator. She didn't know like how to use it. Like it's amazing experience to have. And all this in the same time of like trying to be part of the Israel society in those years. So for me now, that's me. And like it's in this year as a Jewish agency as a fellow at GW Hillel. I'm so grateful for this opportunity and this journey I'm having right now. When I got here, I was like, yeah, I'm 27. I know everything. I like solve all the questions I have about myself. And like, I'm very like full with who I am. And then I got here and I have so many more questions I'm asking myself about Jewish life, about like, even I remember when I got here, it was Rosh Hashanah, and my students came to the synagogue, to the shul, for the whole Rosh Hashanah. I was so surprised because I don't, like, my friends in Israel, we don't go to the synagogue in Rosh Hashanah. So it was something that I was very surprised with. Or like a lot of things, or like the fact that they choose every day, like here you choose to be Jew. You choose it. You like every day have this decision of practicing Judaism and having Jewish life. And in Israel, it's part of our culture. It's who we are. It's like Pesach, it's Pesach. Yom Kippur, it's like everyone, maybe not fasting, but you can feel it in the street. You can feel it in the country. It's Yom Kippur. Here, I've been here in Yom Kippur, and it's a regular day. Like I needed to choose to like fast or to like mention this day when everyone else around me just like having their life. For me, it was a huge surprise. And I was in 4 delegations with like, I grew up in Haifa. As I said, we had a lot of delegation of Haifa-Boston partnership. So I had a lot of connection with American and like Jewish communities outside of Israel. But still, like, but yet when I got here, I had so many surprises. And like, if we talk about like my color, when I remember like me getting out of the airplane and suddenly see so many Black people, I was shocked because I'm part of minority in Israel, and suddenly here I'm like part of majority. This is a very Black city. in the beginning I was like, I'm part of it, I'm not part of it, I'm part of it, but I have a whole different history, so I'm not really part of it, but we have the same color. So many questions popped out that I didn't even thought that I would have. Like, it's not something you think about when you go to a shlichut. I wanted to do shlichut because for me, I'm closing a circle with my dad as he being a shlichut and did things for the Jewish Zionist movement. And for me, I wanted to tell my story and to come here and meet communities and like share the thoughts and have conversations about Ethiopian Jews, about the Jewish world in general, about Israel. And it's something I'm doing with my students all the time. I always, a lot of the time, Jewish community students like grew up with this box of like, this is Israel, you're a Jew, so you need to love it. And when they got to get college, they like get confused sometimes. They're like hearing a lot of things from other people. They're like, their road open more. And I felt like my job is to help them in the journey of like understanding who they are. And a lot of time I'm telling them, like, it's okay to be critical. It's okay to have like difficulties. It's not mean that you less like Israel. I love Israel. It's my country. I'm Zionist, but in the same time, there's a lot of complicated things. And it's okay. Like, we need to normalize it, that we like, it's okay to like be critical to something you love. It's like a relationship. You love your husband or your wife, but at the same time, it's complicated. So same thing for Israel. And that's my process with this amazing teenagers or more than like young adults in the campus. I just love the fact that I got here, and I'm gonna stay for like another year for sure, maybe 2 years. Amen. But it's very interesting experience for me. I'll be happy. That's like was a short about me and my family, but I'll be happy to hear more. Like to like let you ask questions, and I'll be answer everything, of course.
You can unmute yourself and ask Sigal a question if you have one.
Sigal, what's something? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay. I was going to ask Sigal, what is something about being in America right now that you are really enjoying?
Sigal, you're on mute, I think.
Okay, you hear me now? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't, my screen is still, yeah, okay. Okay. So for me, when I got here, I was so scared from everything. Everything was new, all the culture, like I've been here in delegations and everything, but moving here, literally moving here, was crazy and amazing and hard and like nice in the same time. First of all, I think the thing that I most love is that the differences between the cultural, like even in the workspace, me as like an Israeli, there's like a lot of things that I'm saying or doing that I'm not supposed to say or do, and then like they laugh at me, but at the same time they're like, oh, you can't say it. So I think I enjoy this journey of me like in this American cultural space. I love it. But I have so much like hard thing. Like, even like going to the supermarket for me was so challenging because you have like in America you have so much from everything. So you go to buy something simple, but you have 5 kinds of this something. So you're like, what? Like, what do you do? But I think this and a lot of like deep and amazing conversation I have with my students. I study from them so much. Like you come here and you think you're gonna learn, like teach and learn them, but it's like both sides. I study so much from this teenager student, from the students, which I love. I love it. Well, like I have a very good connection with them. I hope they will say the same thing about me, but yeah. There was another question, right?
Yeah, I have a question for you. I just kind of to get more personal here, just for a minute. My brother-in-law is from Ethiopia, and obviously my sister is Jewish, and their family is they're Ethiopian Orthodox, but we have a lot of fun with our various backgrounds within the family and that, and them being of immigrants and us being of immigrants, we like to kind of bring it down to just kind of like common people talk and that. And I'm just curious, what's your favorite thing about how you identify as an Ethiopian Israeli? And tell me, what is your favorite thing about it, and what is your least favorite thing about it?
My favorite thing is that we, like me personally, first of all, I love my color. I love being an Ethiopian. I always say I didn't, it's not that I born like this. I got lucky to be part of this culture and community. So I love it. Our food is amazing. So that's another good point we have. But I think it's that you can see how this community is changing and like gaining experiences and like trying to go through everything together and as individuals, which for me it's a like very interesting and amazing experience. What's hard, I think it's like the same. It's interesting because the same answer for what's good, and I said my color, I love it. Sometimes it could be so challenging to be a Black Jew. And in America, I think even more because people don't know about Ethiopian Judaism and don't know about me as like don't understand that I'm a Jewish person and I'm not a Jew of color because I don't recognize myself as a Jew of color. I'm just a Jew from Ethiopia. In Israel, we don't say Jews of color. We don't have the like. It's something that happened here that don't happen in Israel. We will say I'm a Jew from Ethiopia, like someone who's Jew from Poland. We won't like you won't like recognize us or like divide us as Jews of colors. So for me, that's the challenge. That's something I like still working on to like understand like me with my bag of being Ethiopian Jew in Israel coming here and like how I'm like building bridge between this and me here at my work and as a Jewish Ethiopian in a country that talk a lot about race and like my color sometimes is more than like my religion a lot of times. And as I said, going into a room, no one will know I'm a Jew, but they will immediately see that I'm Black, which is interesting too. But yeah, I think that's the answer, the best and like the most honest answer I could.
Right, you're making the point that like those things necessarily in your universe and in your worldview, you don't understand why they're such polarized ideas because you don't see them as being so mutually exclusive and whatnot.
Right, like for me, for example, let's talk about Jews of color. I understand that in America you needed this like aspect. You need like because America talk a lot about race, so I understand why you needed this platform. Like he needed something that will unite, like make them united more. But in Israel, it's not something we talk. Like you would not go to a black Jew in Israel and say you're a black, like talk about his blackness. It's not PC, which is interesting because here you will do it. You will go to a black person, like you will talk about with him about him being Ethiopian, but not his color.
Right.
So it's the
Yeah, well, you have two different philosophies. Some people, they think about like the race issue between the different races and maybe history of conflict between the two. They think, well, we should talk about it more. And then other people have the exact opposite. They say, well, we just shouldn't talk about it. We should just move on from it. And there's good points to both of those.
right.
I tell you what, I sure am honored and privileged you've come on here to share with us and tell us about your experience in your life. And I think this is so interesting. I'm so glad that I'm joining these Zooms, because this is, I mean, as far as Judaism in Colombia, this has to be the best time I've ever been involved in it. I really love these sort of things. This is great.
I'm so happy to hear, and thank you, Walton, for like inviting me to this.
I would hope that my niece Alina, when she's a little bit older, she's like 3 or almost 3. I hope that one day she can meet some Ethiopian Jewish women like you and hear some stories about some things that kind of bring some of her story full circle. It means a lot to me, the world she's growing up in, you know, and I'm just going to, I talk a lot, so I'm going to be quiet and let someone else ask you a question.
It's okay.
It's a privilege, honored and privileged to meet you.
Of course. And we can talk more about it if you want. It's interesting. For me, it was like, as I said before, I grew up in a very white place. And for me, even the fact that in Hebrew, you say, like when you take nude, like the color, it's like a body color, but it's not my body color. But we in Hebrew call it like tseva guf. So it was interesting as a kid to understand that people talk about the body color, but it's not yours. So who am I? What am I? But I think now there are more, like people more talk about it. So now you'll see more like Barbie and like TV shows for kids with black people and colored people, which is amazing and very helpful for us to see someone who similar to us and to have like heroes from our like color or community or like culture. Yeah. But that's what's interesting in Israel. I don't feel like people will, like I'm just Israeli. Everyone knows it. I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. Like there's people who question it, of course, like everywhere, but like the majority just know that we are part of the society. And there's difficulties too, but it's just like who we are.
Do you have more question to Sigal? Maybe Gabriel, do you have? Or Stefan, I see you now. We would love you to ask questions. This is an amazing opportunity that Sigal is here with us. So please don't be shy. We're Israeli. We can hear everything. We will answer to everything.
I would like to ask a question. So working with college students and working with Jewish communities across North America, what is your message? What do you want to share with us? What do you want us to take from it? Yeah.
I think my message, that's a great question. When I got here, I was like, okay, my message, my thing is to like share my story and my community story. But now it's changing. I think my goal is yes, like part of it is being a representative of my story and my story inside of my community. But the other part is like trying to do more to like build a bridge between these two huge and amazing community, the Israel society and the like Jewish life in Israel and Jewish life in America. I think both sides have so much to like talk, and there's a huge amazing stories I'm I'm lucky to hear from my student about their history, and they hear from me about me and my friends' history. But in the end of the day, I'm like the Jewish agency is also so at GWL. But I think that's what I want to do. Even after, like now, I like trying to like understand what I'm gonna do with my life after the shlichut. Not now, but like it's a good question to ask all the time. And for me, is working in the Jewish world, the internationally Jewish world, and like explore more communities and get to more communities. And like, okay, Rabbi Cook has an amazing poem he wrote that his name is Or Haner, the light of the candle, and it's about the fact that each one of us has a candle or a light inside of him, and our goal is to like try to find each other light and like make us more united and like light the world. So for me, it's just trying to combine all these stories and all this amazing history we have and share it more with people, because it's hard now in campuses, and it's not like it's challenging now with like the raising of anti-Semitism and like what people say about Jews. So I think, yeah, together with my students and other Israel fellows, that's my main goal.
You skipped right over something that's very important to me is food. You said, of course, we have amazing food, but you didn't mention amazing food. You didn't tell us what it is. And I know I have an Ethiopian. What should I look for in Ethiopian food?
So first of all, it's superfood, so it's very, very, very healthy. Secondly, it's I'll show you a picture too, but like it's a bread that you put on it a lot of like tavshilim,
Potluck dishes and
yeah, thank you. A lot of like dishes and spices, and it's amazing. It's so super healthy. A lot of like now in Israel, you can see a lot of people who's like vegan love this food, and more people even that in Israel the food is so, it's a mix, it's a mishmash of a lot of things. And like the Ethiopian food, like 10 years ago it wasn't like this. Now people want to try and eat our food, so we're like, even like in like kitchen you can see people not Ethiopian eat from this food. The name of the bread is injera. I'm looking for a picture to show you.
But Sigal, you have to be honest and warn everybody that the Ethiopian
Spicy.
food is very spicy. Very
Right,
spicy.
Spicy, it's spicy. You're right, I'm sorry. It's good, but it's very spicy. So it looks like this. I'll share my screen. It's a bread with a lot of like things on it, and you eat it with your hands. You have to wash hands before, because that's what you do. You can like, it's like a whole, like respecting your food too. In Ethiopia, they eat it together, the whole family. But in Israel, we are like more modern now, so we eat as individuals. But that's the food. It's very tasty, but it's spicy. So if you go to eat Ethiopian food, ask for not spicy if you don't like spicy food. But it's very, very healthy and very tasty. I love it. I miss it. So that's one thing I miss a lot. My mom, traditional Ethiopian food in Fridays before my mom is like my parents are Orthodox. So before the Shabbat is starting, eating their hot Ethiopian food. Yeah. That's something I miss a lot.
Were you surprised at the amount of anti-Semitism that exists in America, in the United States?
So you hear about it in Israel, and like I grew up in one thing of like grew up in a conflict zone and like in a this complicated society and all this like Israel-Palestine conflict. So I knew what it feels like to be afraid, but when I got here, I was like, it's happened twice already in GW, and I was very surprised that like in Israel, when it's happened, you say, oh, like you see, or like you it's hard and everything, but like there's agenda, not agenda, but like the conflict is it's the cause, like that's why it's happening. But here someone just decided to get up in the morning and be mean and do mean things to Jews. For me, it was like we fight over land in the Middle East. Here it's you just hate someone because what he represents, which is crazy. And like I was shocked and surprised, and I was even more shocked because my students are so brave to be who they are, and they don't let these things to break them. And I was like, look at this, like 18 years old students who come and like having like Shabbat dinners with me at the Hillel, and come to like classes about Judaism in Israel, and like being so involved in Jewish life and Jewish community on campus and raising it in the same time that these things happen to them. It's amazing. Like you don't have any idea that it's happening here. That's why I said before, that the fact that you choose every day to be Jew. I was very surprised from these things, and I see the faces of people in America. I see the faces of my students, like Jewish people, and how it's like affect them. But it's an inspiration because you still choose every day to wake up in the morning and practice your Judaism, or going with a necklace of Magen David, or like. So yeah, I was surprised, and it's made me. These things make me even more proud of who I am and my Judaism, and the fact that I am a Black Jew, changing so many thoughts. I'm taking my students now, 20 students, not Jewish students, presidents from GW, and 5 Jewish students to Israel and the Palestinian territories to have a geopolitical trip for 10 days about the conflict and other things. And for them, like the first time I'm talking with them in the email, they don't know me, but they imagine this thing of like what people think as white, like as Jews, white Jews, like as Jews looks in America a lot of times, like the majority. But then they see me, curly hair, like Afro, blagger, Ethiopian, who's not like being ashamed of who we are, or not like asking for like forgiveness from people, and just being who I am. And for them, it's changing the whole like view about Israel and about Jewish life and Judaism in America and in Israel. So I feel even like who I am changed a lot, like changing a lot for other people to see, and it helps. It's build bridges. But yeah, I was so surprised. And I want to say, like you are here, all of you are heroes too. Like the fact that you decide to grow up your children and like families with this values of being Jewish and keeping your Judaism and it's hard. It's harder than in Israel, for sure, I think, in my opinion.
I would like to say thank you to everybody for joining us in this afternoon, and thank you very much, Sigal, for dedicating your time and speaking to us. I know this is something that we don't usually have an opportunity to see. And this is why we have this program through the Federation, the Israel program, to show you more faces of Israel, to get to know you and you get to know us as Israelis. And as Sigal said through her talk, this is why I build bridges, and this is how we build bridges, and we believe in that. So again, thank you, Sigal. We can't thank you enough, and thank you for participating, asking questions, and I hope you get something out of it. And same for you, Sigal. I hope you like spending time with us this afternoon. I know it's Sunday, I know you're off, and we even appreciate it more. And I want to pass it to Anna to tell you a little bit about our federation and the program. And again, thank you so much for your time as well.
So once again, Sigal, toda rabba. Thank you. That was fabulous. You showed us another story about Israel. And thank you, Rotem, for making this happen and bringing us more voices from Israel. This is our opportunity to, merge the gaps that we have between both of the communities and really learn above the conflict and above the politics and really engage with Israelis, engage with the stories. This is a great opportunity also to share with y'all that whenever you support Federation, you also support Israel, you also support the Jewish Agency, and you support people like Sigal, people like myself that made Aliyah to Israel, discovered a safe haven to be Jews. And on top of that, you're also supporting other communities across North America that enjoying the services of Shlichim, that discover more voices of Israel. So whenever you support Federation, you support not only the Columbia Jewish community, but also Jews across the world, North America, Israel. So if you want to learn more about this, please let me know, shoot me an email. I would love to share with you more stories about what Federation is doing. So again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. As a reminder, next month, we're going to have on the second Sunday of the month, we're going to have another activity, and Rotem probably is going to surprise us with amazing story or amazing guest speaker, amazing activities. Share it with others. We want to see more people engaging with Israel. And if you want to, have a coffee, virtual coffee with Rotem, please do not hesitate to reach out to him directly or to me. Rotem will drop his email in the chat so you can reach out to him and have some one-on-ones, or you want to have a one-on-one with me and to learn more about my perspective of Israel as an Israeli, as a Ukrainian, I'll be more than happy to talk about this. At the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And Super Bowl day, basically, and I will send it to everyone. Here we go. This is Rotem email. So have a great Sunday. Bye, y'all.